Hello, everybody. Tell me, is my audio working? Can you hear me okay? How's the audio sound? Let me know in the comments. Look how many people we have in the building already. This is incredible. So we already I have 11:59. We'll get started right at 12, but we have had 198 people register for this webinar, which is higher than any free webinar I've ever done. So I am pumped today. I appreciate y'all being with me on a Friday with some of the weather. And looking at the comments, we already have, I think I count 12 states now. And let me just go through this real quick. We have Pennsylvania, South Carolina, obviously Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Kentucky, Virginia, Missouri. Man, this is incredible. This is incredible. Michigan in the house. I'm sorry about the Detroit Lions. I apologize for what you went through there. Good. Audio's good. Audio's good. Audio's good. All right, we are streaming. We have about 80 plus and counting live in the webinar. If you registered for the webinar, you can participate in the discussion. As you can see, your comments are right on the screen. Normally when I do workshops and I do trainings, I ask a lot of questions and then I get feedback back through the audio. But with this platform, I'm going to really rely on your comments and your feedback in the chat. So it does not bother me for how much you're in there. If you're responding to me, if you're talking with each other, that makes this more of an engaging environment for everybody. And then we're also streaming on X. We're streaming on Facebook. We're streaming on both YouTube channels. We're doing some big things right now. So for some context, the reason we are here today from my perspective, and then I want to hear from your perspective, is I just finished my third book, Cape Conversations, Communicating Through Chaos, right? And this is a fiction book that was inspired by one of the most difficult times I've ever experienced. When you talk about chaos, this experience pushed me to a level that I did not know I can go. And that's the beautiful thing about chaos and adversity and pain, is it'll take you to a place that you believe you can't go on, but you have it in you to keep going. And when you do and get to the other side, wow, do you learn something about yourself? So I'm writing this book and I'm thinking, how in the heck did we get through this? How in the heck did I get through this? And it made me think, wait a minute, let's bring this conversation beyond the book and let me schedule a free webinar to bring people from across the country to talk about, all right, how do we get through the chaos sometimes? And there tends to be a lot of chaos. And based on what I'm seeing, is not just a Florida thing. It's all over the place. So what I'm going to do is 5 people that registered for this through the webinar, when that book that I wrote is ready for publishing, and it's with the editors right now, so it's going to be out very soon, I'm going to randomly pick 5 people who attended this webinar and commented and participated to send an autographed copy of that new book. So that's just my thank you for you being here. And that's why we're here today. Now that I said that, I am interested. If you could go into the chat for me, tell me as concisely as you can, why did you decide to register for this particular webinar? Why are you here with me at lunch when you could be doing whatever else you want to do? What made you decide to say, all right, I want to participate in a free virtual webinar called Communicating Through Chaos? Tell me in the comments, what brought you here today? Why in this webinar? So Jennifer said, I'm in the training sector and I'm working with my teams at the salon team. Rubio said, because I need help with getting through chaos. And I need to be able to help others who are going through chaos. I love that. It's not just for you, it's helping other people as well. Wanted to learn strategies and helpful tips to communicate when stress is high. Leadership role at a maternity home. I am just blown away by how diverse this audience is. This is freaking amazing. How cool this is. There's so many different areas of our sectors are here. HR mandated. Crystal, how did HR mandate this webinar? I created it. How'd that work? All right, I'll take it though. Sue says, always looking for tools to communicate. Excellent communication with our team. Tiffany, I want to grow through the chaotic workflow culture. I want to learn how to better communicate. The topic's relatable. Work stress is very high. Gwendolyn says, I'm currently going through cancer treatments and working. That's chaos. Everybody give your thoughts and your prayers out to Gwendolyn for a moment, going through cancer. I know we all have somebody in our lives who are going through that. I do as well. So, hey, props to you. And look at I could even sense the energy in your message. You're going to be good, Gwendolyn. You're going to be good. Man, hoping you will provide us some reinforcements. Always need to learn. Continuous improvement. This is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. Our organization allowed us to be a part of this training. All right. I love it. All right. So here's what I did. Let me give you, before we talk about what we're going to talk about today, just a little background of me. Has anyone here been in a webinar or training with me before? Has anyone participated in a training? If you did, what was the topic? If you participated with me before, what's the topic? Probably motivational interviewing, empathy, stuff like that. Yep. So a little background of me. If you want to talk about some of my chaos experience on a professional level, I started out working as a group home worker. And that was probably the hardest job I've had with regard to like a chaotic culture. That was like girls on one side, boys on the right, and that one desk in the middle. And this was a work culture where everybody just wanted to get through their shift. They weren't concerned with what happened before their shift. They weren't concerned with what happened after their shift. They just wanted to get through it. And that's probably one of the toughest, emotionally draining cultures to be a part of. I don't know if anybody's been a part of something like that, but I learned a lot about how to manage and communicate through that chaotic atmosphere in that situation. I was a director of a YMCA. That was the first job I ever had as a leader. I actually learned in that moment that just because you're a leader, that doesn't make things easier. It gets more chaotic because now you're responsible for people other than just yourself, right? And then I was a case manager and a program manager of a juvenile justice program, area manager of a federal program, transition director for a juvenile justice program in Central Florida, where we served 145 of the most at-risk young people per day. That was funded by the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. And then I ran that program while we went through the COVID situation, which obviously that was chaotic because we were a community-based program where you were going out to see and help young people. And then all of a sudden you're told, hey, do all of that, but do it virtually. Do it via phone and Teams meetings. It's like, what? How are we going to get through this? And I even remember that situation. I was thinking, this is not going to work, but we made it work, right? And that's the beautiful thing about getting through adversity and hard times. And then obviously now I am founder of Speak4MC, Speak for Motivating Change. And I have my own company where I go across the country and I train empathy, motivational interviewing, team building, engagement, retention, all of that amazing stuff. So if you have an organization that would like to bring somebody like me out, get with me after this training and we can make it happen. I always like to share, in the spirit of chaos, you see that guy on the screen? That was my first name badge after getting out of college and getting like my first real job. And that guy in that picture, he thought that as long as you do things the right way and you're positive and your heart is in the right place, then you know what? Things aren't going to be that hard, right? Is that how it works? Things aren't going to be that hard if you're just doing it for the right reasons and your heart's in the right place, right? That's what that guy thought in that picture. So I always like to kind of share this. Can I share with y'all a picture of me about 4 months into the job? So this is 4 months into the job, realizing that maybe school didn't tell me everything or teach me everything. Let me show you this picture. That's me right there. Boy, boy, boy. I don't know if anybody else has had this experience where you're driving to work and you're kind of looking to the right and you're like, oh, I could pull off over there and call into work. Or I could pull off over there and call into work. Or, you know what? I do got a headache. Maybe I'll go on Indeed.com. Has anyone had that experience before? That was me in that picture. Everything in that moment, I was like, what am I doing? Why did I choose this job? I could have been a greeter at Walmart. I would have been awesome at it. But here I am. But the beautiful thing about chaos and going through hard things is that you learn the most about yourself in those moments. What you do in those moments really, in the end, defines what happens next. It defines who you are at your core. It's what do you do in chaos, right? And look at Matt. Oh, Matt works for AMI, so you get it. You get it. So that was me. And you know what? I showed this picture before. Somebody was like, "Oh, you're probably exaggerating." So I found another picture. See, I'm still angry. That was 2016. Yeah. So that was driving. That's where I had to drive almost 2 hours one way to go do a home visit at a young person's house. And I get stuck every time on this drive because it's just one lane for like an hour and a half. And I get stuck behind a freaking two horses butts just staring at me for 2 hours. So if you think I'm exaggerating, I got receipts and I brought them and there they are. But again, it is in moments like this that you figure out, you know, who you are. And thank goodness for Facebook memories, because stuff comes up and I'm like, oh, I blocked that out of my mind. I didn't even want to think about it anymore. But it's a good reminder. If you don't know about Speak4MC, everything I do is about encouraging short and long-term change. So when I help people, it's all right, what's the short-term goal we're trying to accomplish? And then what can we do as a helping professional to keep them on that positive momentum long-term? Because the thing is you can't get to the long-term change without those short steps, those missteps, those mistakes, those failures, those wanting to give up. So everything I do is about inspiring short-term and long-term change. And then everything I do is about helping people who help people. So everyone in this webinar, if you are in a profession that you help others, what I'm trying to accomplish is give you a couple tools that'll help you continue to do that and maybe help put you in a position to even do that more. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I do these free webinars, because I truly just want to help people. There's a lot of nonsense in the world these days. And by the way, I just want to tell you, I'm going to speak very candidly. I always speak candidly, but since this is my free webinar, I'm going to speak even more candidly if that's possible. But the bottom line is there's a lot of nonsense in the world. There's a lot of hypocrisy in the world. There's a lot of people feeling like they are the main character in their own movie, and it's just their movie that matters. There's a lot of that going on. But you have decided to choose a profession where you want to help people. You could have done anything else, but you're choosing a profession to help people. And for me, that makes you a hero already. So if there's anything I can do to help you do that, then I want to do that, right? So make sure you're giving yourself kudos, showing yourself some love, not taking it for granted that there are people like you and other people that are in this webinar that are choosing other people's needs above their own. And that's what I try to do, is help those individuals. So what we're going to do today is I thought, all right, what specifically, when we're talking about chaos, what specifically should we review? And everything that I do when I do trainings now these days is about CAPE conversations, which I just want to give myself a little bit of credit, a little bit of props real quick. I just officially trademarked. CAPE Conversations is trademarked. Yay! I'm going to pretend that you're giving me a round of applause since there's no audio and I can't hear you. But yay for me. So what CAPE Conversations is, just for some context, is I was watching Spider-Man with my little girl, and she saw Doctor Strange come on the screen, and she was like, well, why does he wear a cape? And I said, oh, you know, some heroes wear capes. He's a hero. And she goes, well, then, Daddy, where's yours? And I was like, like that. I was like, oh, man, I'm telling you, kids will tell you stuff that'll just freaking shake up your entire world. But when she said that, after I got done being a little emotional, I thought about it, and I was like, well, what does it mean to be a hero? And I know there's the expression that says, like, not all heroes wear capes. But I'm thinking more, when you choose to be in a profession to help people, what is the thing? What are the characteristics? What are the tools that you bring with you that puts you in the best position to be a hero for that person? And I'm not talking like a hero like Superman, right? Like if you're a mentor and you meet with a mentee once a week or once every 2 weeks, in one form or another, you're a hero. Right? Like there's all versions of this. The impact you can have on somebody by planting seeds is just incredible, right? So now every time I give a presentation, a training, I meet with organizations, I give them a CAPE presentation, but the C, the A, and the P, and the E changes based on what the topic is and who I'm talking with. So I created a CAPE just for y'all. Now, I want your participation to help me figure out what this CAPE is together. So because StreamYard won't let me like go slide by slide, as once I put the next slide up, it shows you everything. I want to get some guesses first. So if you're talking about communicating through chaos, the very first thing we need to try to do or use some tools to do is a C word. And if you look on your screen, that C word has 4 letters. What do you think that C word stands for if you are communicating through chaos? Let me get some comments. I'm seeing some really good comments. This is kind of like Wheel of Fortune, maybe. Yeah, it's like a Wheel of Fortune. I need some Vanna White music. Looks like the top ones are either care or calm. Care or calm. And if you selected calm, you're the winner. The C stands for calm. The very first thing we need to consider when we're going through chaos is, all right, how do I stay calm? Because the more emotionally heightened you are in a situation, the harder it's going to be to see the big picture, and the easier it's going to be for you to miss things that are right in front of you. And this has to do with people, when you're actively listening, what's actually happening. The more fired up you are, it's just so easy for you to miss things because you're filtering it through how upset or angry or frustrated you are. Like that, has anyone here ever, like an example of this, has anyone here ever responded to an email that after they sent it, they were like, oh boy, oh boy. Like anyone like was Googling really fast. Can you unsend an email in Gmail? Can you retract an email in Outlook? Oh no, like you're having to, has anyone ever sent an email like that? Or is that just me? Because I have. I have. Yes, I definitely have. If I can give you any tip just on the email part or a text message part, if you are emotionally heightened, if that email or text is not time sensitive, meaning it does not need to be received by the person you're sending to exactly in that moment, I always suggest either sending it to yourself or sending it to an objective party that can take a look at it first. Because just how our brains are wired, you are going to look at it differently later when your emotions are down, and you're going to see it in a different way. So really try your best to take a step back and not send those. I actually almost did that recently. I was real mad with an email and I almost hit send. And the only reason I didn't hit send is because I was doing a workshop about this later and I didn't want to be a hypocrite. And then I read it later when I went back at the end of the day and I completely misinterpreted it. So I say all that to say is let's talk about, it's one thing to say, be calm. And it's another thing, well, how in the heck can you do that? So let's talk about 2 strategies to remain calm. All right, the very first one is give yourself time. Let's say you're in a real-time situation with somebody or a chaotic situation. Try to buy yourself as much time as possible. Just because the person coming at you is communicating with you in a way that has a sense of urgency that they want you to respond right now, they don't get to dictate your response. They don't control your response. You control your response. So if you need a couple seconds, if you need some time to evaluate, you take that time. And some ways you can do that is you could say, all right, let me think for a second. Or, and I've done this a bunch of times, someone will ask something that's really like polarizing or really emotionally high. And I get some of these now because I put on another hat. I'm in another arena that's very polarizing. But I'll get questions like, don't you think? Don't you realize? Don't you agree? And when they're asking a question like that, they want an immediate reaction that confirms what they already think. You don't have to give that, right? You get to control your response. So saying something as, okay, that's a fair question. Saying, you know what, I haven't considered that before. Or, all right, I hear what you're saying. Give me a moment to think about this. You have the right to control your response. Take that time. And if you're still not ready after that time, say, you know what? I'm going to circle back with you a little later. And if they get upset with that or frustrated with that, unless it's something that is a time sensitive, the house is on fire and I need you to tell me right now where the fire extinguisher is, that's different, right? But if it's not time sensitive, I get to control when I deliver my response. You don't get to. You just don't. And I know it doesn't feel like that sometimes, but they control theirs, you control yours. So that's the very first thing, is buy yourself some time. I remember I was in a situation with a staff member, and this was a very high performing staff member, but they called and they were communicating in a way that was disrespectful on a level that I haven't heard them be before, right? And they were ready for me to attack or hang up or tell them they shouldn't be talking that way. And all of that would have just escalated things. So I simply said, that's not a perspective I've considered before. I'm going to have to think about that. I'll circle back with you, right? I'm going to buy time to respond to that situation. Because and I don't know if you heard this expression, but if I join the circus, now we're both clowns, right? And I don't want to be there with you. So buy yourself some time. And then the second one is ask questions. Ask questions. Don't assume. When someone says something, we have something in our brain called mental heuristics. And because it's such a fast-paced world, especially with social media, we want to draw conclusions as quickly as possible based off limited information, right? So in other words, someone says, hey, I'm really annoyed that you're sending me this email at Friday at 4:45. Your initial brain goes, all right, wait a minute. I sent it for a reason. The reason I sent that, they probably think this. And you're drawing all of these conclusions based off this initial information, where usually when people are communicating, the first things they're saying is not the core issue. It's the surface level issue. So instead, what you want to do is take a step back and say, all right, tell me more about that. Or what do you mean? I'll give you an example. Recently, I was talking to a neighbor, and a neighbor made a claim about someone in a helping profession was intentionally trying to deceive students. Now, my mom's in the helping profession. My mom's a teacher. So I obviously don't agree with that, but I'm not interested in debating with you in that moment. I want to understand why you feel that way. So I say, well, what do you mean by that? And then you can ask, well, when was the first time you can remember having that belief? And everything someone is feeling or saying, especially in a chaotic situation, it can almost always be sourced back to a very real personal experience they've had. And if we can get to that and have them talking through that, there's some nuance there. And then it'll give you some empathy. Like, okay, even though I initially felt this was about me, it's not about me, right? It's about them and their personal experiences, and they're filtering what's happening through that, right? So it's not always, the expectation is not for you to not respond emotionally. Like, sometimes people say that, I'll hear leaders say that, they'll say, don't take it personal. We're emotional beings. The majority of decisions we make are emotional. So you're going to take it emotionally. The idea is, what do you do after that? When you take it emotionally, can you take a step back? Can you breathe? Can you take the time you need to think? And then can you ask questions? If you can do that, that can help you remain calm. Now, obviously, these are just 2 suggestions. If you have some suggestions too, put them in the chat. I already see some people putting their suggestions in there. It's easier said than done. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes, but these are 2 strategies that I have found have helped me. Speaking of asking questions, one of the good things about asking questions and active listening is it could help you avoid some power struggles. And you really, in a chaotic situation, the last thing you want to be in a chaotic situation is a power struggle. Because if you're in a chaotic situation with somebody and you enter a power struggle with them, even if you win, them as the loser is going to feel resentful. And there is nothing more patient than a resentful person. You are creating a person who the only thing they want is payback. And then it's vice versa. If you enter a power struggle with somebody and you lose, you're going to lay your head on the pillow late at night and feel like crap. Because you're like, I put all of this effort into this thing. I fought. I maybe sacrificed some of my values to win, and I lost. You're going to feel like crap. And unfortunately, some of that can seep into other parts of your life, and other people might take the brunt of that, right? So we got to really avoid those power struggles with people. It's kind of like the expression, if you argue with a fool from a distance, you can't tell who is who, right? If you argue with a child from a distance, it looks like 2 children arguing. I've been in power struggles before where I was like, all right, that was a mic drop situation. I win. It's over. It's not. It just comes back around. So try not to engage in those power struggles. Try to remain calm, and that go a long way in getting through that chaos. All right, let's go. Let's go to number 2. The first one was calm. The second one is 2 words. And I think I've already seen some of it in the comments. What do you think the A stands for in our webinar today? What do you think it is? It's two words. It's so weird me being the only one talking, by the way. There's like this rumor in Florida that I like to hear my own voice for hours at a time. And this webinar is not helping debunk that rumor. So, oh well. If anybody asks, y'all were talking to just through chat. Okay, so obviously this one was an easy one. Everybody got it right. The A stands for ask questions. And what I'm talking about in asking questions is I'm asking specifically for you not to ask questions to other people, but I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions when you're in chaos. All right. So here's the first one. The very first one is, what is my goal? And I know this sounds simple, And I know this sounds like, okay, this is so obvious. And I'll tell you the truth. There's a lot of people that do trainings, and there's a lot of, I mean, you search Amazon, there's tons of books. Everybody's a YouTube self-help person. Really, it's not about the solution. The solutions are out there. It's about your commitment and drive to following through on the solution, your discipline in the solution, right? So yeah, really, the very first thing is asking, what is my goal? What am I trying to accomplish? You would not believe how often we behave in ways that don't actually align with what our goal is. So when you're in a chaotic situation with somebody, you have to be honest about with yourself and ask, what am I trying to accomplish? What's really my goal here? And if the answer is, well, my real goal is I just want to be able to just go home, watch some Netflix, and just unwind. If that's your goal, then why are you going back and forth with this person in this moment? Because even if you do that to the best of your ability, go back and forth with them, if that's not actually your goal, the likelihood of that being successful is just not. So what are you trying to accomplish? If your goal is to truly help this person, then if they're cursing you out or they're not doing what you want them to do, it's going to be easier to not take that personal if your goal is to truly understand, well, what's causing the behavior? What is your goal in that moment? What do you want to accomplish? This is incredibly important, asking yourself this question before entering a chaotic situation. Let's say you're going to enter a situation with a staff member where you have to write them up or give some really constructive feedback. In that, before you go to that meeting, you should be asking yourself, what is my goal in this situation? What is my goal for how they receive it? What is my goal? And then, is the way I plan to deliver it put me in the best position to reach my goal? And you're being very intentional. It'll help center you in those tough moments, because your brain, if you are being intentional about what you're trying to accomplish, like saying it out loud, it's going to be hard for you to go against that in real time, because nobody wants to be a hypocrite. Now, I think I said this earlier, the most common characteristic in our society right now that people have the hardest time seeing in themselves is hypocrisy, right? It's very hard to recognize it in real time. This is why being intentional before the chaotic situation is so critical, where you're saying, all right, what am I trying to accomplish? Because if that's on the forefront of your mind, it's going to be hard for you to go against that in real time. It's going to be easier to self-adjust, right? The second question is, what do they need from me? And this is a very important question, because has anyone here ever got unsolicited advice before? Like got advice from somebody that you did not want their advice, but they gave it anyway? Has that ever happened to anyone before? I always ask that, and that's a silly question, because we've all been through that question. Who's the person in your life that gives you the most advice you didn't want? Let's put them on blast for a second. They're probably not watching. They're probably not watching. They're off doing something else. Who is the person in your life that gives you the most advice that you don't want? I'll go first. No, well, all right. Tiffany said it, so I'll say it. My mom. I love you, Mom. She's probably not watching. She's heard it. She's heard enough of me for the last 41 years, so she's probably not watching, so I'm good. Oh, my husband. Okay, Kimberly. He's not watching though, is he? I think you're good. I like how everyone's answer is my family. It's always the family. So the question we're asking, I say all this to say, is what do they need from me in this moment? I actually saw, and if this person is watching, I'm not going to say your name and put you on blast, but I saw somebody on Facebook the other day tell on Facebook a goal they're trying to accomplish that's very hard for them. And they actually wrote, I'm just telling you this for encouragement. I do not want any of your advice. I already know how to do it. So like she straight up just put there, do not give me advice. But the idea here is if you're trying to help someone, but you're not trying to meet their need in real time, even if the thing that you have can help them, they're going to be more likely to reject it because they don't feel heard, right? So in that moment, we have to ask yourself, does this person just need me to listen? Do they just need me to respond to an immediate need they have? Like they need me to help them do something? Do they need guidance? Do they need feedback? Do they need advice? Do they need me just to just be quiet? I've been on conversations where I haven't said anything for like an hour. And then I'll just say one thing. I'll just be like, that sucks. And that was it. That's all they needed. We want to match the need for what they have if they're trying to help. Too often, sometimes as helping professionals, we assign the need they have to them, right? We view it as, oh, I know what you need, so I'm going to give you what I think you need or I know you need. But people will reject support and help that they know can help them if they feel it's coming from a place of disrespect or distrust, right? So you got to ask yourself, what do they need from me in that moment? And my mother-in-law is not watching, but she's also a victim of this. But I actually tell her, I tell her, hey, I don't need this right now. But she still gives it. But, you know, we're all working on ourselves. And then the very last one is, what can I give? And this is, I think, a question that if you're in a helping profession, we need to ask ourselves more. And I learned this during our adoption process because I was pouring so much into that situation emotionally that eventually my mental cup was empty. Or excuse me, my mental cup was full. In other words, it was a zero-sum game. There was nothing else I could pour in without other stuff overflowing. I could not take in anymore. I could not give anymore. And I actually had to tell my wife at that situation, I was like, I got to check out. I got to check out for at least 48 hours a week or something. I got to mentally check out because I got nothing left. I got to empty the cup. So you have to ask yourself in that situation, what can I give to this chaotic situation? What can I contribute? And be honest, because the thing about mental health is you might think, hey, I can keep pushing, but if it's full, there's a limit to it. And you might keep pushing in this direction, but then other parts of your life are going to overflow and those parts of your life are going to suffer. So you got to really ask yourself in a situation, what can I give? And then specifically, I want to talk about a couple of things we're trying to give here is, can I give empathy? Can I give compassion? Or can I give sympathy? Or maybe I can give all three. But we want to be really intentional in this chaotic moment. Which of these three do I have it in me to give? And I want to be really transparent here. It's okay to say, I cannot give this situation empathy. I can't. I won't. I'm choosing not to. It's okay. That makes you human. The problem is when people pretend that they have empathy and they really don't give it. That's the problem, or they weaponize it, right? When people pretend they have compassion, but they really don't give a damn. And you see this a lot on social media, right? You see something come across a feed and people hit that care button. Oh, but they don't care, right? Now, if you're being honest with yourself and saying, hey, I just can't give more than the care button, then that's cool. Well, we can't pretend. We got to be real. We got to be transparent with ourselves. So you got to ask yourself, can I be empathetic? Can I be compassionate? Or can I be sympathetic? And in order to help us talk about, all right, can I give this? I just wanted to break these down a little bit. Sympathy is the baseline of human connection. This is the bare minimum of giving to others. Steven says, are you saying fake people? All right, Steven, I'm going to pivot on this comment real quick and let's talk about this, Steven. So one thing that's important for me is I don't think any person is just one thing. We are so complex and so nuanced that I think we're layered. And like an example of that, I'm sure we've all had some people in our life who, and professionally, they're phenomenal. They're like the top leader in their company, but then you learn about their personal life and boy, are they doing some things they're completely different, right? We're very nuanced people. But to your point, Stephen, one of my pet peeves is, yes, people who for lack of a better word, are not real. Like I'm okay with you believing however you believe, if you truly believe it and it's rooted in something real to you. That doesn't mean I got to agree with it. That's a whole nother thing. But if you're real, I can respect that. It's the stuff that you're just saying things because you feel it's the right thing to say because it'll get you something, or because someone else is telling you to say it. And I don't want to get too off track. There are places for like your office politics where you can't just go off on people, but you can still have patience and be calm and be empathetic and be real, right? So let me pivot back to this for a second. So you have to ask yourself: empathy, compassion, or sympathy? Yeah, exactly, Kenya. Pretending to be compassionate or not, or weaponizing compassion. Sympathy is the base, is the bare minimum. This is essentially just acknowledging someone's suffering. This is like, hey, that sucks, or that must feel horrible. You're going through that. Or on social media, in the comment section, you just put like the prayer emoji or the care button, right? That is you demonstrating some sympathy. Now, there's situations where all I can give is sympathy. There's so much going on in the world. If I poured emotionally out into every single tragedy and every single part of chaos in the world, I would emotionally be done, right? So you have to decide, what can I give in this moment? But sympathy is the bare minimum. Empathy is taking sympathy to that next level and truly being curious and trying to understand what's happening and what that person's suffering is like. That's where you truly want to learn. If you are in the change arena, in other words, you are trying to help people change, or you are trying to inspire change, you cannot do it without empathy, without some sort of empathy in it. It's just, you can't. And if you think you're doing it without empathy, you are really just encouraging compliance. And that compliance is only going to last as long as that punishment or incentive you're giving, right? Real change, and this is based on of science and studies and psychology, empathy is the foundation of change. Empathy is about understanding. And then the third one is, or can I be compassionate, which then takes it to the next highest level. And essentially what compassion is you want to do something about it. So sympathy is I acknowledge it. Empathy is I want to understand it. And compassion is, all right, I want to help do something about it. I want to take action. Obviously, you can't take action in every situation, right? Obviously, you can't empathize with every situation. Maybe you don't want to give sympathy to something that bothers you because you completely disagree with it. I'm not saying any of that is right or wrong. Right or wrong is just subjective anyways, because it's all just your own morals and your morality and your values. I'm saying just be real and be intentional and honest with yourself about what I can give. Let me just go through the pros and cons of this real quick. Pros of sympathy: it does acknowledge someone's struggle. Sometimes people just want you to acknowledge it. Like I said in my example before, I was talking to somebody who was going through something, and literally all I said, that sucks, or damn, that's a lot you're going through. Just me saying that meant a lot to that person. They just wanted somebody to acknowledge their suffering, right? So those are the pros of sympathy. Is sympathy? I'm not saying sympathy is bad. I'm just saying it's the bare minimum, or at least just the starting point. Obviously, there are cons to sympathy. It could sometimes turn into pity, like feeling sorry for people. I feel sorry. I pity you. It could blur some professional boundaries. The main thing is people believing sympathy is enough to really affect real change. That's enough to help someone, or that's enough to be meaningful to really accomplish some real goals, would be the cons of sympathy. Sympathy is good as long as you don't think that sympathy is going to accomplish some big picture goals, right? That's like if you see a tragedy on the news and you're like, that's horrible, and then you move on. You saying that's horrible is not going to change anything. Now, if you're honest about that, then that's okay, right? But giving yourself credit for that, I don't know. Now, I want to say real quick, I do this too. I do the thing I just said sometimes because that's all I can give in that moment. So I'm not saying if that's what you're doing, that's bad. I'm just saying be honest. Just be real with yourself. The empathy, let's talk about pros and cons real quick. obviously empathy is a foundation of change. So the pros are, if you're trying to help someone change, this is the foundation of it. It helps you gain true understanding. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So this helps someone know you care. If you took the time to truly hear them, they're going to be more likely to take the time to truly hear you. So empathy allows you to do that. Some cons to empathy is it does take time, right? So if it's 4:45 on a Friday and this person is going through something, if you think you're going to be able to be empathetic truly and still be home by 5, that's not realistic, right? So maybe in that moment you can't give real empathy. You need to table that conversation or say, all right, I was planning to go home at 5. Now I'm going to stay here and be empathetic. And it can feel clinical or manipulative depending on what the source is or the outcome. Like we had a salesperson at our house recently, and they were asking a bunch of why questions to find out what I was thinking because they wanted to sell me what they were selling, the highest thing, you know? So like, I mean, to each its own, but I knew that. So as soon as I know that, no matter how good you are at your questions, it's just not gonna fly with me, right? So it can seem a little manipulative. And then the pros of compassion, this is really the helping stage. The quickest way to build trust and rapport with someone is responding to an immediate need, right? So if someone says, hey, I got no food at the house, and you're like, jump in the car with me, we're gonna go get you some food, we're gonna go get you lunch. That can go obviously a long way. It can be so powerful. However, with compassion too, if you're always doing something for other people, how much are you giving to yourself? And then also, could it create a reliance if you're always doing something for other people, too much of a reliance on you for their own success? Change can't happen long term if people are attributing the majority of their success to an external factor. They got to believe that they have it in them to accomplish that goal, right? So the cons of compassion is if you're always the person getting in the car and taking them somewhere, that can create a little bit of reliance, and that can create a situation where they believe they're able to succeed in this space just because you're the one driving that success, which obviously, if we're in helping professions, we're not going to be with that person all of the time. So it's all about asking yourself, what's my goal? What do they need? And what can I give? Empathy, compassion, or sympathy. And I think what I'm going to do for y'all in the spirit of compassion is I'm going to create a cheat sheet based off this whole presentation, and I'm going to email it to y'all, okay? So you can print it out and bring it to your workplace or bring it wherever you want just to remember some of this, if that's cool with you. Speaking of compassion. All right, let's go to the P. We're going to go through the P and E fairly quickly. Anyone want to take a guess on what the P stands for? If you're in a chaotic situation, being in tune and connected to your P can help you get through that chaotic situation. What do you think that is? What do you think that is? Being in tune and connected to your P can get you through that situation. And I just saw Kimberly with the answer. It is purpose. It is your purpose. What is your why? I'll give you a personal example. When we were going through our adoption process, my why was my little girl, and then eventually my little boy. In the beginning, it was my little girl. That was always on the forefront of my mind, my family, my little girl. So no matter how chaotic that situation got, as long as that was on the forefront of my mind, external factors are not going to influence me to do something that'll get in the way or hurt my purpose, right? Your purpose is the thing that's the deepest down underneath your iceberg that drives you. Whatever your purpose is literally your superpower if you are intentional in defining what it is. Because if it's that real to you, it's going to be very hard for you to make decisions that get in the way of it. Now, sometimes we don't articulate what it is, and then it's kind of easy to get away from it because it's not in our face. That's why you got to really put it in front of you. It better be hanging up. It better be with you at all times. There better be something reminding you of your purpose, because then it's going to be hard to go away from it. And one of the best ways to be in tune with your purpose is being in tune in what your core values are. So your core values have been shaped since you were a little baby. Your experiences, your successes, your failures, your trauma, your neighborhood, your family, your faith, everything has shaped who you are and shape how you prioritize your values. So when we're going through chaotic situations, and the most chaotic, I'll give you a professional example. At one time professionally, I was in a situation where we had to collaborate with multiple agencies and contractors, and the majority of agencies and contractors in that situation just weren't a fan of me. So they weren't super incentivized in having our collaboration be successful. So anytime we went into a meeting, I said, all right, what do I want my core values in this meeting to be? And I said, you know what? It's going to be collaboration. It's going to be empathy. And it's going to be communication. So no matter what happens in this meeting, I am going to be able to walk away and say, I tried to be collaborative. I tried to hear everyone's perspective. And I tried to communicate in a way that will push us forward. Maybe the meeting wasn't perfect, but I try to stay committed to those three things. The other thing about values is if you clearly articulate what they are and you behave in a way that conflicts with them, you're going to be able to quickly get back to what your core values are. Because when you behave in a way that conflicts with your core values, it creates internal discomfort. And that internal discomfort can only be resolved by fixing what happened, right? Now, if you do something that conflicts with your core values and you don't get uncomfortable about it, they probably were not your core values in that particular situation. I mean, they just weren't. It's not to say you don't have those values. They just weren't the ones you were prioritizing the most in that moment. So real quick, before we go forward, picture one of the most recent chaotic situations you've been in, like one of the really toughest situations you've been in or are in right now. What would you say are like the top two core values that you are going to stick to in that situation? What are you going to, no matter what happens, what are the two core values in that situation you were in or you're in now that you say, no matter what happens, you're not getting me off of these? These are my non-negotiables. What would those be for you? And Kimberly, while you're thinking about that, makes a great point. Absolutely. In the workplace, if you're a professional, let everybody know what your values are. Because then if you make a decision that they don't agree with, but it does align with your core values, at least they're going to know you're being yourself. You're being real. You're being consistent. So that's a really good suggestion. All right, we got honesty, respect, fun, purpose, empathy, justice, honesty. All right, fairness, professionalism. So I want to give everybody a challenge real quick. If you do not have your core values hanging up somewhere, I want to challenge you and strongly encourage you to do that before the end of January. So wherever you are most of the time each day, your top 2 or top 3 values need to be right there so you could see them. Because before you get on that really tough conversation and you're about to go off, you're going to look at that value. Or before you're about to send that email, you're going to look at that value. Or before you're about to just get fed up with someone you're helping because they let you down again, you're going to look at that value, right? But if they're not right in front of you, it's going to be very easy to forget what they are. So I want to challenge everyone, whatever those 3 core values are, put those somewhere where you can see them every single day. And one little other tip, if you want, if you're struggling or going through something, ask yourself, by yourself, be in a situation where you're by yourself, it's completely quiet, it's just you and your own thoughts, and ask yourself, what would someone who has this core value do in this situation? What would someone who values spirituality or confidence or courage, what would that person do right now? And I promise you, it's going to get you on the path for what you need to do next. I've done it, right? So your core values are just incredibly powerful. They are who you are at your core. So I definitely encourage you to put those where you can see them every day. All right, in the last 5 minutes, let's look at our E. Here's our E. Like I said before, I'm going to send a little cheat sheet out to you, Laura, so no worries. I'm also going to send you out a survey that you can take at the end of this training. All right, so let's take the E. What does the E stand for? Any guesses on the E when you're going through a chaotic situation? Y'all have been playing Wheel of Fortune really, really well. What do you think the E stands for? Sue said exhale. That's a good one. I like that. Execution. Teresa, consistency. It's an E. All good, Teresa. Etiquette. Execute. There's a lot of good E's, huh? That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff that goes on somebody's cape. So for me, for this one, it's expectations. So let me talk about expectations. Here's 3 reminders for tough times. And here's some expectations that I had to realize for myself, and I want to give to you as well. The very first one is the expectation that you cannot control another person's response. You can't. No matter, you could listen to every single training and webinar or workshop I ever did and do everything I said, or somebody else's training for that matter. You can read every single book. You could be the best conflict resolution person on the face of this planet and universe. But in the end, you don't get to control the other person's response. They get to have the final say. So if we get to a point where you think, I have the perfect plan to just be able to get them to do what I want, that is a very quick path towards burnout, compassion fatigue, and frustration. It's their choice and it's yours. Now, the flip side of that, you have 100% control over your choice. You have 100% control over your choice. All right. So, and the crazy thing about life, and I'm gonna go off on a tangent because we're almost done. The crazy thing about life is the moments you have more control than any other moment in your life is how you respond to adversity, failure, and chaos. You have more control over how you respond to failure than your own success. Because success, there could be a lot of variables that just went your way. But your response to failure, you get main center stage. You get 100% control over what do you do next. That's when we find out. You can't control theirs. You can't control yours. Number 2, never take credit for someone else's choice. And this is the good and the bad, right? Now, you can take credit for the impact you had on somebody for sure. You help someone, be proud of that. But what I mean is if someone curses you out or someone makes a decision where it ends up bad for them, or someone deceives you, you should not take credit for the thing they had 100% control in doing, right? You don't take credit for that. Now, if you behaved in a way that was unkind or made them feel bad or hurt them in a way or disrespected them or was unfair or not empathetic, yeah, you take credit for that because we want to be kind and we want to be empathetic and we want to help people. But ultimately, they get to have ownership over their own choices, just like yours. So don't take credit for that. And this one came up when I was talking to someone professionally who they were working with a team member who they thought they had a good relationship with, and then they found out behind the scenes was really disrespecting them and saying some hurtful things about them. And they really took that personal. Like, why would they do that? What did I do to cause that? Is what they were saying. And the thing is, you don't get to take credit for that. They decided to talk like that. They decided to earn your distrust, right? You control yours, they control theirs. And then finally, number 3, I think we can all relate to this. When someone shows you who they are, please believe them. Please believe them. Look, who we are at our surface level behavior is not who we actually are. Think about like the Titanic. The person driving the ship, they were judging how fast or slow they were going based off the surface, based on what they could see. Where the stuff that was really the most impactful and can really be the most damaging is underneath. So when someone gives you a glimpse of their goodness or their values or what they really care about, believe them. Believe them until they show you otherwise. But one of the most frustrating things that can happen is someone is showing you who they are, but you're still going into that situation expecting them to be something completely different. And this is really, really common in our personal relationships, right? You get in a personal relationship and you're like, hey, this person, they'll eventually change or they'll do the right thing eventually. And then you just get more frustrated and more drained. People will routinely, especially if you let them talk long enough, they'll tell you who they are. They'll tell you what they believe in. They'll tell you why they believe it. And again, it's all subjective, right or wrong. People can believe however they want to believe. People can feel however they want to feel. Feelings are subjective. You get to feel however you want to feel. I'm just saying when they show you, believe them. If someone shows you who they are, you decide to believe they're otherwise, that's no longer on them. That's on you, right? So in those tough times, look for the people around you. Look for the people who show you that they are the type of people that you want to have around you, that those are the type of people you could trust, that those are the type of people that are truly kind and have your best interests in heart. And then believe those people, right? As opposed to having expectations that one day this person in your life will change, even though they're not showing you that they will. So that's the CAPE for chaotic situations. Obviously, there's so many different tools, but I just wanted to put this one together for you. It is calm. Try to remain calm. Ask yourself those important questions. Stay connected with your purpose and set expectations. You are not going to do all of these all the time. You are not going to be perfect. You are going to be human. And throughout that journey, just try your best to be real, to be authentic, and to be intentional about what you're trying to accomplish. And if we did that, the world, our society, our communities will go in the right direction. And the fact that you're in a helping profession, like I said, you're part of the reason we can get there. So I want to thank y'all so much for being with me today. It goes a long way for me, and it helps me quite a bit get my message to help other people. If you share these things on social media, this live stream was streamed on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you're on any of those platforms, if you can just go to my page and hit that share button, it means a lot. And then I have a bunch of free trainings coming up. So go to speak4MC.com to see if you can attend any of those. And if you are in an organization that could use a message like this or use a message that could help people, send me an email, send my information to them, and let's make it happen. This was freaking awesome. We had at one point 95 people stay on consistently, not even leave. And then we have people jumping on all our social media platforms. Before I end this live stream, questions or final comments for those that are with us? Any final questions or comments about anything we discussed before we leave? And like I said, keep an eye out for that book. Once it's published, it's going to be on Amazon, and I'm going to get some free copies to people who are a part of this training. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad you enjoyed it. A lot of positive feedback in the chat. I appreciate that, y'all. Y'all enjoyed it. Like I said, it goes a long way in supporting me. Send my information to people in your organization. Share this webinar on social media. Give me a shout out. Let's keep influencing positive change. I appreciate y'all so much. I'm gonna send you an email with those cheat sheets, and then once I hit the end of this live stream, I created a video about how to respond or when to respond to people in tough situations. I'm gonna go ahead and hit end here and have that take us out. I appreciate y'all. Happy Friday. You got this.
You had no chance to succeed. What are you, an idiot or something? How do you decide whether a comment deserves your response? Not every comment does. And silence doesn't mean weakness. Here are 2 tips when deciding if you should respond. First, is the person curious or just loud? Curious people ask questions. Disingenuous people make declarations. Second, will responding cause clarity, conversation, or just create more noise? Understand, and especially in social media, comments aren't always for a conversation. They're simply meant to cause confusion and conflict. A lot of times, they're meant for reaction. Leadership isn't about winning arguments. Collaboration isn't about putting others down and make yourself feel good. It's about values. It's about restraint. It's about solutions. It's about empathy. And it's about focusing on what matters.